As we turn to the role of leadership in driving meaningful climate impact, I would like to introduce you to Deepali Khanna, Head of Asia at the Rockefeller Foundation, joining us from Thailand. Deepali will speak on catalyzing climate action, focusing on philanthropy, capital, and the power of AI. Over to you, Deepali.
Thank you so much, Preeta. And of course, it's very hard to go out with Harisha, who was just phenomenal. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. I think it was very late for Dharisha. It's an honor to join all of you today as we discuss India's development and growth during a time when the world faces tremendous challenges. Specifically, I want to share a few thoughts that have been on my mind lately, and I'm sure it's been on many other people's mind, rooted in India's philosophy of living life. I often find myself thinking about how closely life in India is tied to nature, not in an abstract way, but in deeply practical, everyday ways. The timing of the rain determines incomes. A few degrees of temperature can decide whether crops survive. And increasingly, what used to be predictable no longer is. I come from a farming family in Uttarakhand, the foothills of the Himalayas, so this is all very personal for me. That shift from predictability to volatility is something millions of people across India are now navigating every day. And it brings us to a fundamental question. How do we build for a future when uncertainty is the norm? Because what we are seeing today is not just climate change, it is climate disruption happening faster, more frequently, and more intensely than our systems are designed to handle. In India, extreme weather events are no longer occasional shocks. They're becoming part of everyday life. And the impacts are deeply interconnected, affecting health, food systems, water, livelihoods, and economic stability all at once. For too long, the climate conversation has focused primarily on mitigation. And while that work is essential, it is no longer sufficient. Because for millions of people, especially across the global south, climate change is not a future risk. It is a present reality shaping daily life and opportunity. That is why resilience must now move to the center of how we think about development, not as a separate agenda, but as the foundation of it. At the Rockefeller Foundation, we see resilience as a systems challenge. It is about strengthening the connections between energy, health, food, and local economies so that when shocks come, they don't cascade into crisis and solving systems challenges truly requires a different kind of an approach. First, it requires philanthropy that is catalytic. So, how we're really going to be using our resources in a way that is really going to catalyze things. Philanthropy's greatest value is not just in what it funds, but in what it unlocks. It can take risks others cannot. It can back ideas before they're proven, and it can bring together governments, markets, and communities in ways that accelerate progress. Second, it requires capital that is aligned with long-term resilience, because the scale of the climate challenge cannot be met by philanthropy alone. We need capital that is patient, that absorbs early risk, and that unlocks much larger flows of public and private investment. Take energy for an example. At the Rockefeller Foundation, we are advancing a vision of universal energy abundance, ensuring that every person has access to reliable, affordable, and sustainable electricity, not just to survive, but most importantly, to thrive. Because energy, we know, is foundational. It determines whether hospitals can function during heat waves, whether farmers can adapt to changing rainfall, whether local economies can continue to grow despite climate stress. But capital alone is not enough. This is where AI becomes transformative. At the Rockefeller Foundation, we see AI as a once in a generation opportunity to accelerate progress across climate, health, and economic mobility. But only if we move beyond pilots and build systems that scale. Because today, AI is not constrained by imagination. It is constrained by infrastructure, by access to data, to compute, and to institutional capacity. And here, India offers a powerful example. We've heard that already, whether it's through digital public infrastructure, be it Aadhaar, UPI, CoWIN. India has shown that technology can be built at population scale in ways that are inclusive, reliable, and trusted. The opportunity now is to extend that model to AI, to build AI systems that are not only innovative, but trusted, inclusive, and designed for real world challenges like climate resilience. Because in AI, trust is not an afterthought, it is what enables scale. In the context of climate, this matters enormously. AI allows us to move from reacting to crises to anticipating them, to predict extreme heat before it becomes deadly, to optimize energy systems in real time, to identify which communities are most vulnerable so that we can act early and effectively. In a country as large and diverse as India, this is truly transformative. But scaling this kind of impact requires more than technology. It requires partnership, patient capital, and institutional strength. Partnership because no single actor can solve this alone. Patient capital because real systems take time to build. Institutional strength because trust must be designed in from the very beginning. And perhaps most importantly, it requires a shift in how we work. Because climate challenge does not sit in silos. They cut across sectors, across systems, across communities, and yet too often our responses remain fragmented. What this moment demands instead is collaboration that is deeper, more connected, and grounded in real world realities. And I perfectly understand it's not easy. We're all talking about collaboration, but it is tough. Let me end with this. Resilience is not just about infrastructure, it is about people. It is about whether a farmer can adapt to a failed crop, whether a worker can continue to earn in rising heat, whether families can plan their futures despite increasing uncertainty. India stands at a pivotal moment. With its scale, its digital infrastructure, and its leadership, it has the opportunity not only to respond to climate change, but to shape how the world responds. And I remain very optimistic. If we can align philanthropy, capital, and AI, if we can build systems that are trusted, inclusive, and resilient, then we're not just adapting to the future, we're building it. Thank you so much.